Empower You podcast is devoted to bringing real-world wisdom and encouragement to our listeners. We discuss a multitude of life principles and the process from an economic, cultural, and societal perspective. We believe that through tough conversations and shared wisdom, we can pave the path and leave a ladder for the future. Subscribe to our channel and let us empower you. Welcome back to Empower You podcast. My name is Kibwe Cooper, and I am your host. I am so happy to be here and happy that you are too. My guest today is Cam Smith, and we're going to get into who he is in just a moment. The topic for our discussion today is practical goal setting. It's really impossible to know your progress and to really measure your growth if you don't have goals, practical goals all lined up. And I have the perfect guest to talk to us about practical goal setting. Cam, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Sure. I do a variety of things. A little bit about myself. I am born and raised here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I had a couple opportunities that I thought was going to take me away from Fort Wayne, but did not happen. So I'm proud to be here long term. I am married to Katie Smith, and I am the son of Thomas and Tony Smith. Proud to be one of their three kids. I am the baby of the family, but they moved here when they were actually pregnant with me in back in the day, and my dad actually took a job at Elmhurst High School here in Fort Wayne in 1983 as the head football coach and a math and science teacher, and so we've basically been here since '83. I went to Northside High School, graduated Northside, went on to play football at St. Francis. Very proud to be a Cougar.
Hey.
You well know. Had some great years playing football out there. And then I went on to play 5 years of arena football, and then shut that down and started an all-boys charter school called Smith Academy for Excellence with my dad and my brother. We opened our doors in 2012, and a few years following that, I ended up meeting my now wife. When I married my wife, she was working for her father. He owned a court reporting firm called Home Court Reporting and Video. And so we decided that we would go ahead and purchase that company from him and run the business. So we've been able to grow that company a little bit here over the years. She actually started a foundation. She started an after-school mentoring and tutoring program called the Brandon Foundation. So she was working for it at the time, and so she actually has an education background as well. And she ended up wanting to pursue the foundation long term. So we just decided that it would be best for us to go ahead and do that. So we work literally back to back together on the company, and I go to and from between the school. That took me away from the school, unfortunately, but we're getting really close to the point where I'll be able to go back to the school at least part-time, hopefully here at the turn of the year, and then eventually full-time, because as much as I love business, I love working with kids and being in the education environment much more than doing litigation, as much as I enjoy that as well, doing litigation services. So stay busy with that. And then I also just recently took this year, I took the role at New Haven High School as the offensive passing game coordinator.
Wow.
I also co-coordinate the offense at New Haven, as well as the quarterback and kicking and punting coach out there. So when you ask me to tell you a little bit about myself and what I do,
You do
Quite
everything,
a
man.
variety, yeah, quite a variety of things here. But I'm very, very blessed to be able to do it because, I was actually just speaking with somebody the other day about how, here in my mid 30s, I a lot of the stuff that I've wanted to do, I realized that, it goes right in alignment with what we're here talking today. But I had goals of doing a lot of what I'm doing right now. I realized that, coaching was one of the things that, I really wanted to do at this age. I always thought I'd be doing it, for my school at Smith Academy, but we haven't been able to do that because of a variety of reasons, mostly budget and location being landlocked and things like that. But I had the opportunity to get back into coaching, and I've had a blast with it. So I'm just very blessed to be in that situation, man.
Wow, man. You do everything. I often think I'm busy and then I talk to people. And I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. Never mind. Man, that's amazing that you do all of that stuff. I didn't know that you played in Arena League for 5 years too. I knew you were the man around St. Francis for a while there. I remember seeing your
From
man. I remember seeing your picture in their little Hall of Fame thing, man. For you all who don't know, the University of St. Francis is where me and Cam both went to college. He went to school there before I did, and so he was one of the past seniors who everybody was just still bananas about when I got there. So it's really awesome to have you on here, man.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, man. I really am.
That's awesome.
I think it's a great podcast.
I appreciate it, man. We're trying to. Our goal today with this episode is just to try to demystify this idea of goals. I know for myself, I didn't really have a lot of structure around how I practiced goal setting growing up. And I had really intelligent parents and things like that. That was just something in the midst of everything else that life throws your way that just didn't quite happen as much as I wanted to. And I feel like I had a really great set of circumstances, right? So how much more so for those who maybe have not had quite as much opportunity to be around folks who do that, and so who exercise those skill sets. And so that's one of the reasons, well, that's the main reason why it's so important to me that we talk about this on this podcast, that we talk about practical goal setting. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on the first question. What would you define as a goal?
So I would define goals as something that's been certainly something that's been written down, or at least memorialized in some way, shape, or form that you aspire to accomplish. Maybe at a particular date, time, or a segment of time. In my opinion, I don't believe that you can use the term goal unless it's been written down or tangibly observed somehow. I'll use my wife as an example with what she does with a lot of her kids that honestly, I know a lot of adults actually do, but I don't think enough adults do it. And that's going through producing a vision board. And so for folks who may not have heard the term vision board or know what the vision board is, it's basically just coming up with images, sayings, phrases, pictures, whatever it is, and actually putting it down on, I've seen it on particle board. I've seen them on, presentation boards, things of that nature. But you literally just put down visuals of certain goals that you have for yourself, and something that you can revert back to and come back to from time to time, or something that you see on a daily basis, and you put it in an area that you see it on a regular basis. And so I've always been really impressed with how well the kids do at the foundation, because it's tough to do during football season, but as a mentor at the foundation, I try to get in there as much as possible. And it's always really cool that to see all the kids' vision boards. I mean, every kid it's a requirement that when you come into the foundation that you do a vision board. So my wife does a whole lot with regard to that, make sure that our kids in the foundation have vision for themselves, but that they're reaching their goals, and they help them get to help them get to that point where they're reaching their goals. So to go back to your original question, I believe that a goal is anything that you're trying to meet or realize at a particular time, date, or a segment of time. There's something that's an author that I have read a couple of his books, man, by the name of T. Harv Eker, that he makes a point to remind his readers that where attention goes, he says energy flows and results show, which I think there's a few other people who have said things similar to that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But it is true. It's, so I think vision boards are something really good, a good way to tangibly make sure that your attention is going, a particular place. And sure enough, at least in my experience that, you start giving energy and time into going that direction, and then the results show something behind it. So it's kind of cliche and kind of funny, but I certainly believe there's quite a bit of truth in that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think, man, I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever done a vision board. I'm big on timelines. I'll write things down.
Yeah.
And I'll put, the amount of time I want to complete something. But I'm not huge on vision boards. I'm learning, even as I continue to do all this stuff, to be that much more deliberate, that much more intentional. I had a friend of mine who came on the show. Her name is Yolanda Naylor. She said in a book that she wrote, and she may have been quoting someone. She said, failing to plan is just like planning to fail. Because if you have not articulated how you're going to do something, you might as well not even try to do that, because you have to plan it out first. It's not just going to fly together all of a sudden.
That's right.
And so this idea of vision boarding is a little, it sounds to me, I want to feel like cool, like, man, I don't need no vision board, but at the same time, I think about things just visually. I'm like, why not? I've always written things down, and I've been that kind of a transcriber of my goals, but I've never actually tried a vision board. So I think I'm going to write that down as something I should try, because, I'm all down for, because you never stop learning new ways to motivate yourself and to fine tune your intentions and things like that.
Sure.
So that's really awesome that you talk about.
And you mentioned timelines. I think anything where you're actively writing something down, because we all say, oh yeah, we may verbally say, yeah, well, I have a goal to do X, Y, and Z, or I have a goal to do something particular, but it's something that, of course, studies have been done about, writing goals down and having it somewhere where you can visibly see it on a regular basis, that, you're much more likely to attain those goals. And of course, there's other steps, having people hold you accountable, and that studies have proven, are huge when it comes to achieving them. But yeah, so timelines are great. But yeah, and I think it's important that for each person to know themselves, how they learn best, or how they, you kind of have to play around with it. I think you certainly have to experiment with what what's the best way for you. I'll just keep it simple and say what's the best way for you to write them down or achieve your goals. And like you said, timelines or vision boards. There's a couple different things different ways you can go about that. People do videos. I got a buddy that does videos, and he literally records himself, and then he goes back and listens to himself and watches himself speak into his life, speak into his own life that way, and remind himself of goals in that fashion, and that works for him.
Wow, that is amazing. Listen,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
is a good. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Recording yourself. Mm, that's really dope. And I even
Yeah.
think, even if you taking it even farther, you record that and you watch that, just like you were saying, on your phone every single day. You listen to that in your ears constantly every day.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think that kind of stuff. You start to manifest your own rhythm, your own
Yep.
frequency at that point. And I think that comes, with your spiritual practices and your groundedness and things like that too.
Without question.
Yeah.
Without question.
So
Yep.
do you feel like it's impossible to really achieve things without practical goal setting, or why do you think it's so important to exercise practical goal setting?
Uh, I mean, I think you can achieve things. I don't know that you can achieve things with consistency and precise accuracy like you expect if you don't set practical goals.
Mm.
If you don't practice practical goal setting, um, I believe. I personally believe it's far more than important to practice practical goal setting. I think it's absolutely paramount, personally. But again, that's because of some of my personal experiences that I know I've verbally just said, oh yeah, I have this goal for myself to somebody, or I've thought I have a goal, um, and not follow through with writing them down, or just throwing out huge goals, and not be practical. And some I'm all about setting high goals for myself, um, but I also believe in you know obviously setting practical goals and smaller goals on the way to those large
Yeah.
goals. So there's
Yeah.
something that a term called, I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but the term BHAG, which Jim Collins, in his book Built to Last, Successful Habits of Visionary Companies, is I can't remember if it was his second book. I was going to say I think it was his first book, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's his second book. Um, but the other book um, just left me. It's
Built
Built
to
to Last.
last.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Built to Last, and I'm trying to remember. I can't believe the other one escapes me, but he used the term BHAG, and BHAG stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals. And so,
Okay.
yeah, Good to Great. That's the other one's Good to Great.
Good to
Jim Collins, Good
great.
to Great. Yep. And then Built to Last. But yeah, so a BHAG is Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals, and he talks about basically that uh, you know on your way to achieving your BHAG, there's certain steps and certain things you have to do in order to be able to achieve those. And he talks about BHAGs from a company standpoint. So each company has their big, hairy, audacious goals. And he talks about different steps that different companies have taken to get to that point to where they're achieving those goals. So my opinion is that anyone who's wise enough to make a goal for themselves, um, is most likely, or excuse me, to who's wise enough to set practical goals, probably means that they have even bigger goals in mind that they want to achieve. Excuse me. Um, and so if whatever that BHAG is, you know, there's best practices out there for attaining those large goals, and it comes down to breaking those things down into smaller steps, um, which are smaller practical goals. I think everything should be condensed in order to focus. So practical goals are normally much easier to achieve, um, or one. Um, when you break them down into practical goals. And so when you have practical goals and you're achieving those smaller goals, you're more likely to get closer because of, in my opinion, part of it that comes into play is just the fact that when you win, quote win, or you achieve a goal or you do something well, that dopamine is, released in your body from the brain. And so, dopamine is the same thing that, is associated with like a high or like drug use or, anything that you get addicted to. So before you know it, you've set these smaller goals for yourself and practical goals. And when you've achieved those things, you feel good about yourself, and then you get addicted to that feeling of, man, I achieved that goal, that practical goal that I set for myself. I was able to achieve that. And then, before you know it, you get addicted to achieving those goals.
That's right.
And so back to the original point of a BHAG, you may have, 10 to 15 small goals before you're able to achieve and, achieve the BHAG. You may have 5 or, however you decide to break it down, but, it gives you confidence moving forward. And you're able to move forward with a few more goals, something that I remember somebody saying, and I didn't really realize at that point that it was dopamine that they were talking about, but I think it was Ricky Henderson when he had stolen the most bases, or I forgot what it was, but they're basically saying, oftentimes you hear about like momentum or whatever term you want to use from an athletic standpoint, that, they just said that, his mentality was every time he stole a base, he was like addicted to stealing bases, and he had the confidence. And so every time he stole a base, he felt like he won. And so it just carried him on, to feeling like nobody could throw the ball, to second base or third base in time to, to get him out. And he just had that mentality. And I believe what they're trying to say is that was, the dopamine. So,
and then, especially early in your journey, I think it's really great what you said about goals create consistency, and your, big, hairy, audacious goals are best accomplished in smaller steps, because, when you're, I know for myself, when I was just starting out, I was afraid to make plans. Because you were to set goals, because you're so worried that you're not going to get there. It's because you haven't set smaller ones to begin with, so you're worried that you'll never receive that rush. You're worried you'll never receive that fruition, that confirmation that you're not wasting your time, right? And the reality is, by setting smaller goals along the way to that big goal, that's what gives you that confidence to keep moving forward when some days you can't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. It was there yesterday, so, you should be confident that it is still there. However, at this moment, you can't see that. But that last win that you just had, that last base you just stole, reminds you that, it's always possible. You just got to continue doing what you were doing before.
Yep. That's right.
That's I've never heard big, hairy, audacious goals. That's amazing.
It is. It's great. I really like that concept when I first heard it. Yeah. And it's obviously it's stuck with me. So yeah, I mean, I have BHAGs for my offense, and that's another thing too, is even from like an organizational standpoint, practical goal setting, not only for you personally, can be powerful, but for organizations or groups or teams or whatever, families, whatever it is, my kids know the very first thing we did this year, and of course it was via Zoom because of the pandemic, but the very first meeting that I had with my slots, receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks, was I put it right down the screen. As the very first thing I did was I said, this year these are going to be our goals. I asked them if they had anything they wanted to add to it, and but the goals that I had for our team, I put out there, and it was written down. It was visual, and I come back to them. Almost weekly when we're in film, breaking down the previous game, in prep. I remind them, hey, this is what we said we were going to do. Where do we stand? And I remind them, if we're falling short, what we need to do better. It's for a group, some of the goals we have, I think every team has one BHAG in one to win state. Yeah. So that's of course the ultimate goal, but there's and so Yeah.
There's
But
a
we have
lot
some.
of small steps along that way. I agree with
Yeah.
that. You know, you can't just say,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, I want to win state." It's like, okay, well, then you have to be good on both sides of the ball. So now we have
Yep.
smaller steps along the way that we have to figure out, so that make that broad picture that you have for yourself.
That's right.
So that's great. I hope, man, that's awesome that you establish so early what the expectations are, and what they can start expecting from themselves. And then you even invite them to put down their own goals, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that we
Mm-hmm.
all can be accountable for. Because what you talked about as far as um, being so public with it, uh, and you know, and I expressed how I used to be nervous to make actual goals sometimes because I was worried I couldn't achieve them. But that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
accountability is another very important part of the whole thing. Being able to be accountable to yourself to create that consistency that makes
Yeah.
those small steps into that BHAG so possible. It's that consistency. Anything that you do, most of the time, is going to matter more than stuff you only do some of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
you can't say you want something, but you're only willing to work for it some of the time. You really have
That's
to be
right.
committed to that, and it's made easier through your smaller steps. That's something I have learned this last like year or so. You know, I always have a lot of big goals for myself, but it's so much easier when they're broken down into smaller steps. But we're working with a web developer to get my website and stuff all kinds of done, and she'll just say what date are we looking at to do this, and it gives me anxiety just to be like, I want it done by this amount of time, even though
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one who's working with them, even though this is my project, my investment, my, you know what I'm saying. You still worry sometimes because that's your default when you're not used to goal setting.
100%.
Yeah, you know,
100%.
you
Yep.
question your zeal, and
Yep.
so it's great that, you know, you put it right out there. Like, how big do we want to dream? Like, the door's
Mm-hmm.
open. What do we
Mm-hmm.
want to put on this list?
Yep.
You know.
And it's about confidence too. You know, like a lot of times, I think sometimes people don't set goals and they're intimidated by it because they don't believe enough in themselves, which again is extremely important to do. Because you got to start somewhere, even if they're extremely small goals. You have to build enough confidence in yourself somehow in order to be able to start, acquiring, larger goals for yourself, and to set even more practical goals for yourself. And then before you know it, again, goes back to that the concept of the dopamine being released. But it takes courage, but I mean, it's wild to me. But it's not something that I'm extremely surprised at how many people genuinely are intimidated, because they're this kind of part of it is confidence, but it's also part of it is accountability.
Yeah.
You're going to hold yourself accountable if you take the time to write out a goal and you do the steps that we're talking about. It's tough because you're holding yourself accountable, and then taking a step further, if you have somebody else who knows about it, you know,
Who's
they're
gonna
gonna hold you
really
accountable.
put your feet on the
That's right.
fire about it?
Right. That's right. So yeah, it's certainly all connected.
Yeah, and achievement is made through sacrifice, and that's the other thing that your
Mm-hmm.
goals
Mm-hmm.
remind you, is
Yes.
when you haven't set your goals and written things out, and it's not in your head and on your brain. You know, when you have done that, rather, when opportunities come up to do things that are not that, they immediately feel different to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you
Mm-hmm.
have a choice of either honoring the old things that you used to participate in, or sacrificing and receiving none of those previous thrills, validation, or anything like that in pursuit of something that isn't quite here yet. And
That's
that is
right.
the part that's so difficult, because I think sometimes if you're not setting your goals, if you're not setting practical goals and breaking things down into steps, you can forget where you are in the process. You can really
Mm-hmm.
get lost to the point where you don't really know how you feel about it. It's just like, is this just a pipe dream? It's like, well, maybe if you have forgotten about it, so much, then sure, maybe it is a pipe dream.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But if you have written things down and you have thought through what you're trying to do, it's not a pipe dream. It's a plan.
That's right.
Anything that hasn't materialized yet is by default a pipe dream, right? But
Yeah.
if it just because it hasn't materialized yet doesn't mean it's not a fact.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's
Absolutely.
so it's just a gradual progression, and
For sure.
accountability is a huge part of that, man.
Without question. And there's honestly, there's honestly nothing that I can think of that I've done that I'm proud of that did not include goal setting, practical goal setting, but more specifically writing down um, those practical goals in pursuit of the BHAG. I mean, like I'll use the school for an example. The very first time I had the concept of the school, I was at the school that I was working at the time, and some people know about the story, some people don't. But the I guess kind of the origin of the school, the concept came to me when I was like I said, when I was working at a previous school. But I was working with a group of 6 boys, and basically everything that we implement at the school now are the things that I was doing every day with this group of 6 young men, who it just came to me. Like, I realized, like, okay, like everything that I'm doing here with these boys, there's hundreds of thousands of kids across this nation who could use what I'm doing here with this small group. So why not reach the hundreds and potentially thousands here. Hopefully within the next couple of years, we'll hit that mark here in Fort Wayne. But when it came to me, I literally, like, when the light went off, and I believe the Lord put that on my heart. Fortunately, I was attuned to it and realized that I truly felt that it was something that the Lord gave me. And I honestly, I typed everything out. And I built on it. I had this large document of things that literally have come to fruition at the school, and it was because one, I knew that I needed to write it down because I was like, well, I think this is something that I'm going to do at some point, and then that of course is a much larger story. But in a nutshell, I guess, to make a longer story short, once my dad and my brother and I decided we were gonna move on it, man, the first thing we did was, like you said, a timeline. We started writing out our goals. That was one of the very, very first things we did. And of course, the BHAG was, being able to open doors to the school soon, and it happened much, much quicker than what we anticipated. I boast in the Lord on that. Nothing that we necessarily did. I believe we were faithful, but like I said, I boast in the Lord for the fact that we were able to get things going as soon as we did. But it goes right back to literally writing down the goals. And then I also think, it's biblical, because there's plenty of examples, biblically, where, things were scribed and we're charged to write out things, the verse, write the vision, make it plain, even.
Yeah.
Can be taken in that direction, that it's about, writing it out and being very clear as to what you're trying to achieve. So
that's amazing, man. I still can't. I don't even know the idea of starting a school, man. I think especially right now, we're seeing even more easily the effects of not having control over your own destiny,
man.
And I think the fact that you took it upon yourself to act on a vision that you had, a dream, a word from the Lord, from your higher power. This is a calling. This is something that anybody would have told you that's too big of a BHAG.
Yeah.
You're like, how would you manage to do that? Like, Cam, like, how do you think you're actually going to do that? And it didn't matter. You listen, I have to do this. This is something on my heart. I'm going to write this out. And if this is real, then it's going to continue to show itself the farther that I lean into it.
That's right.
There's going to be signs along the way if your BHAG is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be signs, and it's going to be obvious. It's not.
Yes, indeed.
There's too much work that goes into acquiring things, building yourself, working hard, realizing your potential, overcoming the process, any of those things. There's too much work that goes into it for it to not challenge the very core of why you're trying to do it. So if you feel like whatever it is, the idea, like, well, I don't know if this is the right thing for me, write it down, follow the steps, and try it. I guarantee if your why is not correct, something is going to happen, and you can be like, this is not what I want to do.
Man, that's so true.
You know what I'm saying? Life just gets 100%. Too real, and it will pull your card if you are not for real about what you're trying to do.
100%.
So that's amazing.
That's spot on, brother.
That you went through with that huge of a plan and concept. Like, I don't even know what the first steps were. I don't want to eat up all my time, but I gotta know, man. How was that process? Where do you start with that?
Well, a lot of people don't realize that charter schools are a form of public school. So first off, we're publicly funded the same way that traditional public schools are funded. A lot of people don't realize that. They kind of lump us in with like private schools, and things of that nature. But we're funded by the state with same tax dollars that traditional public schools are funded with. But without going into a whole lot of detail, they're funded the same way, but we as charter schools actually get less than traditional public schools. So there's even more of a barrier there with regard to funding and budget items and things like that. So again, I without going into the real detail.
Right.
That's kind of so. You have to submit a proposal, which is I guess that's not technically the first thing, but we're a nonprofit, and then that's another thing that a lot of people don't understand, and you get a bad rep, I guess, about that because folks think, charter schools are money grab, and well, that's not the case. I mean, we are a nonprofit. I would be, remiss if I didn't make it clear that there are some people out there who don't have any type of education background in education. And they just like, oh yeah, I think I want to start a school. And they, go do it. And then it is a money grab for them. And the school is, poorly ran. And then that leads to other issues. But we have an EMO, what's called an EMO, an education management organization. And they basically handle our like back office services. So what most traditional public schools have, like an administrative building that handles like budget and not budget, but like marketing materials and payroll and things like that. So we have an EMO and we pick and choose which services we need from them. But that's basically kind of our for checks and balances purposes. Something that we utilize. And then also, you have an authorizer, and our authorizer happens to be Grace College here in Indiana is who we use. And so, we're directly accountable to them. And they're accountable to the state, of course, because if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing with oversight on what we're doing, then the university, and the School of Education, the department, the education department, and the university as a whole can be under jeopardized, can jeopardy of
losing their accreditation, I'm sure.
Yeah, accreditation among other things. So, it's a big deal. But there's a lot of steps, a lot of steps at the foundation. But overall. Just because of how many steps there are and the amount of work that goes into it, you have to set practical goals, man. You have to.
Right.
Um, and um, we fortunately among the three of us, I couldn't have done it with two better men. I don't shy away from the opportunity to tell people that my dad and my brother are certainly my heroes, and two men that I aspire to be a lot alike, in a lot of ways, in a lot of areas. But so we fortunately were able to do it among the three of us, and with family, I think we've always worked really well together. So there's normally groups that propose schools and do things like that. That all come from different walks of life and backgrounds, and they then you have to try and manage personalities and things like that. Well, the
Yeah.
three of us already knowing each other very well and knowing their strengths very well, and so it was just a natural, very natural fit. Matter of fact, our EMO, the CEO of our EMO, Dr. Coates, he actually used to be the former superintendent of Fort Wayne Community Schools years ago. He was just saying, hey, we literally have a position with our with our company who, their job is to go and try and match people who have the skill sets that you guys have, for a leadership team. He's like, so you guys, walk through the door, with that already out of the way. And so again, it's just very fortunate that, we've been able to do it together and have the success that we've been able to have to this point, and be able to impact the lives we've been able to impact to this point.
That's amazing, man. I think my mom was a teacher, and so she taught all of her kids, and she was bilingual and a couple of other things,
No kidding.
and
That's beautiful.
and she always stressed the importance of education. And the older I get, and the more I see what's happening in the world, especially amongst Black folks and people of color, the barriers that we face regarding education and regarding what our children and young people are being taught directly affects their outcome and their actions, which then put them in jeopardy of so many other things. And so,
Directly.
man,
Directly.
and it is just like a domino effect. And I believe that because education has been a barrier for us, it is so important that we take control of how we are teaching our young people
Yep.
the fundamentals, the values that we are instilling into our young people will absolutely and totally benefit our entire community with a quickness. But we
Yep.
just haven't really positioned ourselves to do that yet. I see things happening, and just like you just did, like you proved on a fundamental level that you understand how to fix some of these problems. And I believe that is just profound. And I think that is just such an accomplishment. And you said you're in your mid 30s. Like that is a huge accomplishment, man,
Thank
to
you.
understand when you see the world. You're just like education. Education, someplace where you feel valuable and powerful and empowered. That's all you need to build
Yep.
all the necessary tools, structures, strategies, defenses to walk out into any environment.
That's
But
right.
because those
Right.
communities are under attack, it just makes for a difficult thing.
Yep. That's what it's about. And
Yeah.
that's why we started the school and started the school when we did, to combat those things that you just said.
Yeah, man.
Sure.
That's fantastic.
For sure. For sure.
What would be, obviously you do some of everything, but what would be your suggestion to any young person, and how to balance their life, but also set really practical goals for themselves? Because I know sometimes for myself, especially going through college, I was working 2 and 3 jobs. I was working, you know 40, 60 hours a week, and I was also taking like 18 credit hours. So I was doing absolutely everything I could, but at the same time, there was not much balance, and there was not much goal setting. My goal was just to get through college, and I did. So I guess I
Mm-hmm.
did what I planned on doing. It's just, I think there's a better way we can do that. And I think with better mentorship, that could have looked different. What what piece of advice regarding balance and just a suggestion to start implementing at whatever stage in your growth that you're at would you give to our audience?
Well, when you talk about balance, I believe that when you are in the process of setting practical goals for yourself, you have to use wisdom. Because I think a lot of times we go into things, even BHAGs, you have to use wisdom, because what if your BHAG is the complete wrong thing? Like what if you know what I mean by
Yep.
that?
Yep.
Like what if
I want to make $1 million.
That's right.
But
That's
how,
right.
bro? How?
And then yep. And it's kind of like the concept of climbing the corporate ladder, just to find out that the wall that you were on was the wrong one.
Oof.
Like what if what if you didn't use wisdom? Like what if you're not thinking with the end in mind, and you're just saying, hey, like I think this is what I want to do. I think this is a cool goal. Well, let's use some wisdom here, right?
Right.
Let's think in the long term and not just the short term, because I think especially us men can do that. I'm definitely like a visionary. I'm definitely a dreamer, but I also have tried my best to be as wise as possible, and to study wisdom, and to pick the brains of people who are wise. Yeah. And so I think when it comes to balance, you can't go at it and be too aggressive with one, your BHAG, but then even your practical goals need to be practical, because and they need to be practical for you, because what might be practical for me may not be practical for the next guy, and what one guy's practical goal is, because he's been at it for a long time and he's an expert goal meter.
Right.
I may not be able to set that same. I may not be able to call that a practical goal, because I may be in a different place. So I think it's important to use wisdom when it comes to the goals that you're setting for yourself. And when you talk about balance, I think that helps with balance, because you have to think about where you're at. Like the goals that I set for myself and wrote out in high school are completely different from the goals that I wrote out and set for myself in college. And the goals that I've set out for myself as a young adult are completely different from the goals that's, and so on and so forth. So I think it's important to know yourself well enough, and to know where you're at in life in general. Because again, you don't want to be in a situation where you set a goal for yourself that you may see as a practical goal, but it turns out that it's not as practical as you thought it was. And then you end up being on the other end of the dopamine, and you get discouraged, because here you are, striving for a goal that you thought was practical or that was attainable, but it probably was more of a BHAG that you probably should have taken, different steps towards in order to attain that goal.
Yeah.
So I guess with regard to balance, that's how I'd approach that and address that.
Yeah, that's knowing yourself is very important. That's a hard thing to do. I think because we are always changing and evolving. You are a moving target. I had a guest tell me the secret to overcoming adversity and accepting adversity is understanding that you will never arrive. There's going to be no point where you just got it.
Mm-hmm.
It is a constant commitment to putting forth that effort to make yourself just a little bit better. And that's what your goals are. Your goals are your commitments, right? That's why goals create consistency, because you have to be committed to something in order to have consistency. And your goal articulates what you are committed to and in what timeline.
Yes. That's there's a book that I read. It's kind of an oldie but goodie, but it's called The Power of Focus.
Okay. And I'm writing all these down, man.
Yeah, man, I can throw some more books at you that it's funny that some of the stuff that cover this topic that just kind of came to mind. But yeah, it talks about basically breaking down the most important goals that you have for yourself, and just focusing on those things instead of, kind of being scatterbrained and wanting so many different things. You have to think about different goals and figure out how you can hone in and focus on those particular goals to make you, more likely to achieve your goals. And it's along the same lines of basically just breaking down your ultimate goals into steps. And I think about, I don't know if you've ever heard of David Goggins. The book he wrote is called Can't Hurt Me. And it's kind of a different angle, but the subtitle is mastering, I think it's mastering your mind to defy odds, or master your mind and defy odds, something along those lines. And he's a Navy SEAL, and he started off with kind of a pretty rough first part of his life, but decided he wanted to be a Navy SEAL when he was way overweight. I think he was like almost 300 pounds or something, and just was kind of like at a dead end in his life. And he just basically breaks down how he pursued that and was able to become a Navy SEAL. And then now he runs ultras, like ultra marathons, and just out of nowhere decided that he wanted to start running these marathons. And he basically just kind of talks through the process of what it took to get to that point, and basically how to overcome circumstances and go outside of your body with things that you didn't think that you have the ability to do. Basically, the way I see it, through the process of practical goals.
Yeah. And that's and what a, like, there's no greater confidence than knowing that you have the power to be the I am that changes your life.
That's right.
And that comes through knowing yourself and being humble and setting out to accomplish your why, not just your want, and that comes in the form of practical goal setting. And that's just beautiful, that story. I got a lot of more books to read and listen to, man. I've been on like a Audible journey, man, between podcasts and Audibles and listening to lives from influencers and people who I feel like are motivational, like great entrepreneurs and thinkers and philosophers. Like, that's what always cracks me up. People talk about social media, blah, blah. I'm like, listen, y'all just don't follow the right people. You don't invest in the right people, because there is so much valuable information that is free and given to you over Facebook or YouTube or wherever it is. You just gotta invest in the right people. And hanging out on podcasts like this one, this brother just dropped 5-6 different books that can help you with practical goal setting in like 10 minutes. This is free game. You know what I mean? This is free information. You don't have to go nowhere for. Wherever you're at, you could just tap in. And that's why this podcast exists, to demystify this process. You could be stuck and you're just trying to figure it out. Well, you got to start setting goals. Well, I have a goal. Well, you got to get smaller ones along the way. Now you got to break down that big idea into several steps. Well, how do I do that? Well, that's what you got to read and take into account and listen to more people talk about it.
That's right. Write it down.
That's right. You just got to start writing stuff down. Write your timelines. Make your vision board. Because it's all attainable. And we don't want you to feel stuck in some position where, you have gifts that you were given, but you have no idea how to access them and bring them to any type of realization. And so that's all of that is amazing, man.
I just had a thought, man. What's your goal gonna be for getting your vision board done? I'm gonna hold you to that.
Ooh, what's my goal gonna be for getting my vision board done?
I'll let you think on that. I'm gonna check in on you.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell my wife. I'm gonna tell my wife the same thing.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I have actually, so that's 2 things that I need to do. I made a goal for some master classes that I'll be teaching real soon here. Okay. To finish up one of those, and so I gotta get cracking. I'm pretty close to accomplishing that goal. So I
Nice.
got a little bit more to do in that. And then this next one is going to be the vision board.
And that's awesome.
Yeah, man. And you
Only if you
just
want it. Accountability, only if you want it.
oh, absolutely. I'm down, man. I'm
All
down.
right.
Let's
You let me
do it.
know. You let me know. I want to overstep, but
No, that's all good. Okay, so we're at 9:02. I'm
all right.
going to, if you still got time, would love to get a thought exercise from you, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sure.
Awesome. The thought exercises are the, man, I feel like they're the juicy takeaways from every interview because not only have we talk about a topic, but when you get into somebody else's daily routine and their personal habits and mantras and little things that keep them going, I feel like it gives you a little bit of a personal connection to that person who's giving you their personal exercise that they find that helps them. Like that kind of stuff to me is so valuable because you don't have many opportunities when you go see people speak and you go meet folks doing things. You don't have as many opportunities to ask people what is something you personally do, on a day-to-day, I'm struggling today level. How do you get through
Mm-hmm.
this? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, man, if you are ready with the thought exercise, I would love to hear it. And the floor is yours, man.
Yeah, man. My thought exercise would be pretty straightforward and simple for the most part. But it's something that I found myself doing quite a bit, that I need to get back into the reading portion of. But I mentioned trying to be a student of wisdom and earlier, and the things that I used to do in college, on the back end of college, and in my young adult years, I guess you would say, is I was big on studying Proverbs in the Bible, and there's so much wisdom in that book, that I understand that not all your listeners may be believers of Christ, and but for me personally, that's one thing that I found myself doing, and so I would try to pick a chapter or a verse, um, and basically try to meditate on that and read through it, and then honestly, I just to this day, my prayer often is that the Lord give me wisdom in everything that I do, along with my other prayers. But that for the longest has always been at my heart, and I just know the importance of wisdom, and from a biblical standpoint, even. Um, the Lord gave wisdom to some of the most powerful characters in the Bible, and some of the greatest leaders. Of course, the Lord imparted wisdom upon them. So that's just one thing that I would do from, I guess, a thought exercise standpoint is, I'll encourage folks to get in the Bible and read Proverbs. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I believe there are 31 Proverbs, and so there's 31 days in most months. Read a chapter a day for 31. I know some people that I think they even call it the Proverbs challenge, and challenge yourself to do that and see if that would be beneficial. If there are folks out there who are searching, and just in general looking for some guidance and some direction, and in need of a savior, pursue the Lord.
Absolutely.
I'm not ashamed of testifying what the Lord's done for my life, and who He is to me, and just how blessed I've been because of my relationship with Christ. And so I would be remiss if I didn't share that, and share with folks that that's been the deciding factor in my life for sure. is just my pursuit of the Lord's heart and His direction in life. So some of the blessings, the biggest blessings that I have in my life, have I believe come to me through the pursuit of the Lord and doing my best to be attuned to His voice and being obedient. So again, with regard to goal setting, I think wisdom has a lot to do with it. And so, what better way to pursue wisdom or attain wisdom than um, getting it directly from the Lord and pursuing His word and getting in the Bible.
I think that's amazing. So for those of for those of you listening who don't know much about the Bible, Proverbs is the wisdom section of the Bible.
That's right.
It is like the guru section of the Bible for mindsets, for practical attainment, for personal development.
Yes.
That's what he's talking about. So if you're there and you're feeling like, I don't know about this, it's like, well, if you pick up a self-help book, I guarantee
That's
you
right.
the principles from that same self-help book
That's right.
are in Proverbs.
That's
And
right.
so, because these are all fundamental principles, right? There are principles. There's wisdom, and that's what Cam is talking about. These wisdom is your framework that always has to be intact. Your spiritual growth, your ability to be balanced is based off of that framework, which closes the circle, right? If you think of yourself as a bucket, that you hold whatever gets poured into you. And so it's important that you put knowledge and good wisdom and things like that in there with your
sir.
goals so that they're attainable. And your groundedness, your spirituality, your knowledge of yourself, I am, or the I am, or God, however you want to interpret that, is what seals that bucket. So you don't have holes and you're losing all this momentum and all this focus and all this energy.
That's right.
Because you're not really protected. You're allowing everything else to rip away at the peace and the focus that you can have if you ground yourself. It doesn't mean that you have to change some idea of yourself, because if you're honest with yourself and you seek wisdom and truth, it's going to speak to you and it's going to require you to be uncomfortable in some way, shape, or form, because that is the
Yes.
language of growth, uncomfortability.
My
So
man, talk to the people, kid.
listen,
What?
man,
Talk to the people.
listen, Proverbs, I have not read Proverbs in a long time, man. And I believe, just I've said it before. This podcast is for me as much as it is for those who listen and also give me the opportunity to be blessed and encouraged by it. And so
Yep.
I've done 2 interviews on goal setting, and the one she also challenged me to set a goal. So it's interesting that you both did that.
Yeah?
Yes,
great.
and so I have 2 goals I have to figure out now. One of which I'm almost done with, but the other one is I'm going to write that vision board down, and I'm really going to do this Proverbs daily, meditate, try to read a chapter a day. And
Awesome.
just build up on that wisdom, because that informs your goals. That there's so much in that. And for those of you who are understanding the correlation between self-help, between self-development and growth and success, achievement, all of these things come together. You can't tell
That's
me
right.
you're going to have all this amount of achievement, but you don't want to change any of your actions. You don't want to grow. You don't want to become uncomfortable. You don't want to leave old things behind. There's just this thing about being invested in your future. Nothing else means as much, because you realize your promise is not in the present, it's in the future. And so
Yep.
you have to learn to leave stuff behind and put good things in your bucket, like Proverbs, like these self-help books, like having a practical BHAG that's broken into steps. All these things you carry around in your vessel, and they start to play out in your life. So I think that's an amazing thought exercise, man. I'm excited about this one. I think this is going to be very interesting.
Great,
I'm gonna
man.
have to wait some for a little while. So because I do reflections on the thought exercises. So I might wait a couple weeks, man, and do the reflection on this thought exercise, man.
Nice.
Because I think it's really going to be interesting to reflect back on this interview after having read for several weeks, and meditated on Proverbs.
Yeah, I believe that.
And for those of you who don't know anything about the Bible, there's a bunch of different size chapters. It's not all like huge, crazy long books. And there's all kinds of interpretations at this point. So you can find some that are worded a little bit better. I grew up on the King James version. King James wasn't a great guy at all, but there's just a version of the Bible. And but yeah, so I encourage y'all to check it out. You talk about mad game. Read Proverbs.
Right. For sure.
You know what I mean? So I love that, man. Thank you so much.
Great. Oh man, it's my pleasure.
Man, it's been
happy to be on here.
I didn't expect you to come out with the Proverbs, man. I'm in my feelings. I'm like, you know what? There it is.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
I'm glad to hear you talking about getting into it, man. I like I said, I may need to do a better job of sticking to it. I will from time to time, but I need to get back to going straight through and reading all 31 again.
Man, you gotta take as much of it as you can, man. I'm trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, and like you said, even folks that are not Christians. I mean, if that's not your religion, it's not that nothing you can't take away from Proverbs. I mean, because for me, for example, there's certain things I take from other religions, as a believer in Christ,
Absolutely.
So I'm not afraid to dig into another because I'm grounded enough in my belief in Christ that I can still take from things that I've learned from other religions and other practices. So, hopefully folks will take that to heart and be able to get something from it.
Yeah, man. And the thing that I believe about most thought practices that I have studied, that I have listened to, had the pleasure of learning about, is that they are grounded in a lot of common truths. And if you study the stories, many of them are just interpreted differently based off of where you come from and the things that are relevant and valid to you. The principles don't really change. And that is the most difficult part for humans, is to manage our humanity while trying to live out these principles with dignity, with power, with confidence. And so it's absolutely relevant. Whatever your thought belief is, I'm telling you, just read Proverbs. You ain't got to read nothing else. Read Proverbs.
Get in Proverbs, that's right.
You will be like, wow, that was awesome. Yeah. And I've done that when I was a much younger man, probably like over a decade ago. But yeah, man, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, man.
Yep. Like I said, my pleasure. Happy to do it.
Yes. Well, I'm going to let you go. I got a lot to think about. I got a lot of notes here. I got to look on Audible and see if I can't find all of these books.
They're on there. They are on there.
Oh, good, man. I got a library going. At some point, I'm gonna take a screenshot and just scroll down through all the books, man.
Oh,
that I've been listening to.
Yep, it's a blessing, man. Technology, man. If you use it right.
That's right. Quite
the tool to have all these books, man, at our fingertips. Yeah,
absolutely. Sure. So, all right, man. I'll let you go. Thank you again so much, man. I really, really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for doing this podcast, man. It's beautiful.
All right, brother. Peace out. Empower You podcast is devoted to bringing real-world wisdom and encouragement to our listeners. We discuss a multitude of life principles and the process from an economic, cultural, and societal perspective. We believe that through tough conversations and shared wisdom, we can pave the path and leave a ladder for the future. Subscribe to our channel and let us empower you.